Hi, so I'm Ravleen Suri and I am an Indian IMG in my fourth year currently doing MBBS in India. Um, and I gave my exam recently at the end of my third year of MBBS on the 30th July 2021. And I'm here to share my experience all through the exam. I'm partly making this video because I personally did not have any guidance throughout the journey. I did not take any tuitions. I all studied by myself and I collected the whatever resources that I had to use all by myself. I did reach out to a lot of people. Some of them did reply, some of them didn't. But ultimately, I'm making this video so that I can help some people out in some way and just to share my entire journey. So I'm gonna start by saying that I did not know that I'm gonna give my exam till I was in my second year of MBBS. So by the end of second year, I thought of giving the exam. And so I started to experiment with all the resources out there. By that time, I was pretty sure that I was gonna do either Kaplan or Becker's. So Becker's is just like Kaplan. It does provide you with video lectures with books that you have to go through. So I bought Becker's because I had a better deal. I think now that company is closed, but it's very similar to Kaplan. So just like Kaplan, not all subjects and systems are good in there. Just as in Kaplan, biochemistry and neuroanatomy is good. In Becker's, only a couple of subjects were good. Um, so I think I wasted a lot of time doing that instead of just starting with first aid. So I started first aid in August 2020. I started first aid, Pathoma and UWorld all at the same time. By August 2020, I was done with Sketchy Micro. I had also tried USMLE RX, but I did not like the way they explained stuff. So I thought of not going forward with that. I also tried Dr. Najib's videos. So I want to tell something to you that Dr. Najib's videos are very good if you want to build your concept. But those were very long for me to go through the entire, I don't know, the series. So I just watched the cardiology videos because I thought that I was weak in that. I also found out a channel called as Dirty Medicine, and I think that that channel is amazing because it gives you mnemonics for things that you cannot memorize or which are hard to memorize. So things in first aid, sometimes they are pretty hard, and to retain first aid is a task. So this channel was made by someone who gives you mnemonics, and it makes everything very easy for you to retain. I also found out Randy Neal. So he makes really good biostats videos, so I learned a lot of things because of that. For ethics, I did the Conrad Fisher book. So I had a PDF downloaded and I just read that entire PDF. I just gave it like one read, so I didn't really read it multiple times. I did UWorld for ethics, and I think that was good enough. I also watched Dirty Medicine ethics videos, but I think I found a couple of mistakes there. But ultimately, you can watch it. It can give you another perspective because recently a lot of ethics questions have been added to the exam. So I think you need to have a broader understanding of the entire ethics questions that are going to be presented to you. Apart from that, I did not try BNB. Um, I just thought that I was going through a lot of resources in a very small period of time, so I just needed to stick to basics. Sorry to interrupt, but I forgot to add LY Med. I discovered him on YouTube, and he makes videos regarding different systems that are given in first aid, and he teaches them pretty well. You can also check that out. So in August, I started with the first aid, Pathoma, and New World. And how I studied them were like that. I used to watch Pathoma's videos on one system. Then I used to go to FA, first aid, and I used to go through that entire system. And then I did UWorld blocks. So I completed UWorld blocks, and then I repeated the same thing again for another system. So by September, I was done with sketchy. I was done with half of pathoma and first aid, and I think 60% of UWorld. I was done with 60% of UWorld by the end of September or mid-October. And then I took a break because I had my final exams going on for my third year. So in November, December, Jan, Feb and March, I was in my college and I did not study for my USMLE. So my country actually went into lockdown in the month of March 2020 until October, November 2020. It was in lockdown. So my lectures were all online, my clinics were online. So it gave me a lot of free time so that I can schedule and make a plan accordingly. And that actually helped me out a lot. It gave me a lot of free time so that I could study for my STEP. So after March 2021, I made an entire new schedule for my STEP preparation because I was very sure that I wanted to give my exam before pass and fail step 1 comes. So I made a very strict schedule of studying around 6 to 7 hours a day. My country went into another lockdown at that time, and I went back home again. And this time I was all in it. So I revised the systems that I had already done last year. I also started with new systems again with that same method of going through first aid, going through pathoma, first aid, and then UWorld blocks. So I was doing 2 UWorld blocks in a day, and then whatever time I had left, I used to just revise things. So my dedicated started in the month of June, and I gave my first NBME, which was 30. It's supposed to be the most predictive one, so you should give it at the end, but at that time I did not know. So I gave NBME 30 and I scored around 200 on it. So I freaked out, and I actually extended my exam from 30th June 2021 to 31st July 2021. So I extended the date because I wanted to get a better score. Definitely did not want to score in the 200s range. So I was freaking out, and I just focused on my STEP, and I was very sure that I wanted to give my exam by the 30th of July because my exams were also being held in the month of August. So I was really freaking out because I had this exam to give, and then I had another exam to study for. So I was redoing UWorld questions. I stopped doing first aid. I rewatched Sketchy Micro. Sketchy Farm I did not do because my pharmacology was pretty good. Because I studied well in my second year, but I did watch a couple of videos of Sketchy Farm, and I think they're really good. But Sketchy Micro is the best. You gotta watch it. Sketchy Micro, and doing micro from first aid and then doing it from UWorld is the best that you can do. So I was doing that, and then I rewatched Pathoma's first 3 chapters. I think that really helped me with my immunology, and actually I scored the highest on my immunology section as it was in my score report. I was doing dirty medicine videos for things that I was not sure about. I also rewatched Randy Neal a couple of times. I also did UWorld Biostats review in this time in my dedicated. I think UWorld Biostats review is the best thing that you can do for biostats in your dedicated, because it gives you an entire review about how the formulas are supposed to be used. So that's a very good resource. It's about $25 on the UWorld website, so you can go and check that out. I gave another NBME at the end of June, and I scored around 210, I think, on it. I gave NBME 28. And at this time I was freaking out because I had 4 weeks for my exam and I was scoring just 210. And at this time I was very nervous and anxious, so I thought of giving another NBME in a week's time. I revised things again. I went through things that I was weak at, as suggested by my NBME 28. um, I gave another NBME, which was NBME 26, and again I was scoring around 215 or something. I do not remember the score, but I was scoring around that range. And I was so sure that with my exam just 3 weeks down the line, I did not want to score in the 210s range. I definitely wanted to score above 220 or 230. So I was really freaking out. And then I just gave myself a break. I gave myself 2 days off and I stopped thinking about the exam, and I thought of changing my schedule. So one thing that I did was I stopped doing UWorld at all, and I opened up my first aid. I started reviewing high yield information. I downloaded Anki, and I downloaded two decks, Zanki and Duke. So I did those, and I was doing around 2000 cards, more than 2000 cards in a day. And I also did a micro deck, but not completely. So I did Anki for the most part of the day. I had around 2 to 3 hours left at the end of each day, and I used to review the high yield content that I had flagged all along my journey in my first aid. And then I also took pictures from UWorld in my phone to review them, of diagrams and of tables that I did not see in first aid. So I had pictures of them and I was reviewing them as well. So I also gave a free 120 by in this time, and I was scored around 80% on it. So 80% means 225 or 230 or something like that. But I was happy that I wasn't really in the 210s range. Then I gave my UWSA 1 at the end of my prep, the last day of my prep, and the day after that was my exam. So I gave my UWSA 1 at that day, and I do not recommend you doing that because it's very risky. Because if you score anywhere, if you're scoring anywhere less than where your target score is supposed to be, you can get really demotivated and it can be really bad for you. So I scored around 250 on it. I do not remember the exact score, but after giving UWSA 1 and scoring 250, I was a little relieved that even though the exam over predicts by like 20 points, I am out of the 210s range. And after that, I slept like a baby for my exam the next day. I slept really well. I woke up, I packed my bag, I had my scheduling permit, my ID and my food, my water. My father dropped me to the Prometric Center. I went inside the exam hall thinking that I can do this. I wasn't even thinking about the exam. I just had faith in myself and I just went inside and I sat and I started my first block. And that when it all hit me that this is happening, and the entire step that I was studying for and I was so anxious for, this is happening. And I remember everything coming back to me. I was very anxious, I was very nervous while reading the questions, and I remember I couldn't do it. I was thinking that I just wanted to get up and run away. I did not want to give the exam. I just closed my eyes for 15 seconds and I thought to myself that I really have to stay calm because this is what I want to do and I am going to do it. And I just have to go through all the questions one by one at a time, and I can do this. And then I opened my eyes and I kept on doing the questions. I remember my first block not being that great, but my subsequent blocks were better. And this is the only trick. This exam is going to make you nervous because it's some sort of an exam that is going to define the rest of your life as to what you're going to do ahead. So I get it why we all end up being nervous about this exam, and I was too. That was my major thing. But this exam is definitely very easy. I mean, it's pretty doable. It's not impossible. It's not that hard. Questions that I throw at you are very conceptual, and the options can be a little bit confusing. But I remember, even if the options were confusing, I went with my first guess. I did not change my options that much. I remember having a little problem with biostats and some of the path questions, but not all were difficult. I had to guess in a couple of questions as well. And I remember having 7 to 10 questions on the entire exam that I did not know an answer to. So I just clicked whatever I thought would have been the answer. And once the exam was over, also I took 7 to 10 minutes break after every block. So I went out, I roamed around, and I drank some water, and I went back inside. And it's not a very difficult exam. You're not gonna get tired. You're not gonna get thirsty. It's really easy. You're not gonna get hungry, or your back is not gonna go away. Like the seats are comfortable. Entire the entire computer is pretty big. Question stems were a little longer than the UL questions, and I think the STEP exam has questions which are a mixture of NBME and UWSA. So it's definitely easier than the UL blocks. So sorry to interrupt you again, but for those who don't know how long this exam is, it's an 8 hour long exam with 7 blocks to do and with 1 hour of break that you can take anyhow in between your blocks. So you need to schedule your breaks accordingly. And then I walked out of the exam hall after my exam was done, and I remember feeling so relieved that I did it. Uh, so I just want to say that this exam made me feel so humbled, and it did teach me patience. And that's one thing in this exam that you have to learn. This exam will make you feel as if you're not worth it. You will feel demotivated on a lot of days, and you just need to be around people who can motivate you and who could be there for you, who can push you at every time. I don't think I would have been able to take this exam if it weren't for those people. And I want to say that this exam is not that difficult. It's pretty doable, and you can do that. You can definitely perform good. It's not that difficult, and please don't try not to be as anxious as I was, because I think that was the only thing that messed up my paper a little bit. Also, a lot of people asked me about my study schedule. So my study schedule was very strict. When I started in 2020, somewhere in August, I was very laid back. But when I started my prep again in March 2021, I was very strict with my schedule. So I used to wake up, I used to give myself like an hour to have my breakfast, to bathe, and then I sat down and I studied for 1 or 2 hours straight away, and then gave myself a 15 or 20 minute break. Then I studied again for 1 or 2 hours. So by 12 p.m. I was done with 4 to 5 hours of studying. So that's how my entire day went. By the end of the day, I was really tired and I had to like get a good night's sleep, and I never compromised on my sleep. That's one thing for sure. I never compromised on my sleep. I never compromised on my break time. So I actually went outside the room. I used to eat with my family. I used to tease my sister all along the way. Um, Sometimes I used to just go to the kitchen and cook something. I used to listen to a lot of songs. I talked to my friends. And I think having breaks is really important in any journey which is very long. So this is a very long period of studying that can be monotonous, and that can actually hit you with boredom and make you feel demotivated. So break time is really important. And I just want to say that this exam is definitely doable. It's not a difficult exam, and it's definitely something that you can work for. Be consistent and work hard and have a study schedule. A study schedule is so important. Um, is definitely the most important thing in the entire journey. And stick with your study schedule. You will fall behind, make another one and stick to that. You fall behind that one as well, don't worry, you make another one. If I can show you my diary, I don't have it right now. My entire study schedule is filled with crosses and me cutting out things and making another one again and again and again, multiple times. And it's definitely doable. So please feel free to text me or DM me with whatever questions that you have, and please let me know if I can help you with some other videos like this, if that could be of any use. All the best to all of you, and I hope you have a good journey. Bye bye.